All right, so now we're getting some attendees. We'll get started in just a moment, folks. In the meantime, we'd love to hear where you're from, your name, what type of business you're in. If you could put that in the chat for us, so we can kind of get a better feel of our attendees. We'd love to see it. And we'll go ahead and get started in about, I would say, about 30, 40 seconds. Allow some attendees to flow in. As I mentioned, if you'd like to leave your name, where you're from, what type of business you're in the chat, we would love to see it. Suki Kwan, how you doing? Glad to have you with us tonight. We'll give it about another 10 seconds and we'll go ahead and get started to be respectful of everyone's time. We have a packed agenda today, so we want to make sure we're able to get everything in for you. Hamid, great to have you with us. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, folks. Welcome to today's virtual webinar brought to you by the Sacramento Valley SBDC. My name is Joseph Cordova. I'm the program coordinator with the Sacramento Valley SBDC, and I'll be your host for the evening, just laying out some housekeeping. If you have any questions, please use that Q&A box so we can kind of have the questions in an orderly fashion. But if you feel more comfortable in the chat, we'll be monitoring the chat as well. And just so everyone knows, this meeting is being recorded and you will receive a link to the recording and a follow-up email, as well as the slideshow or any relevant websites that are mentioned throughout the training today. So with that, I want to throw it over to our host today, SBDC advisor, John Goldberg. So go ahead, John, take it away.
Thanks so much, Joseph. So welcome, everyone. And I especially want to welcome Crystal Martin, who's a guest speaker tonight. Thanks so much for doing this, Crystal.
Thanks, John.
So Crystal is with Smart Marketing in the Yuba-Sutter area. And actually, which town are you actually in? Which city?
Physically in Yuba City.
Okay, great, Yuba City. So I'll do more of an introduction of her later, but thank you for being here, and we'll talk with you throughout the time here. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is share the screen, and I'll put the slideshow here, and I got to do a couple things to clear up some space on my screen. Come on, get rid of that little thing right there. Okay, so welcome. This is the fourth of 5 sessions that are put on. It's about starting your business, right? It's put on by the Sacramento Valley Small Business Development Center, the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce, the Yuba-Sutter Economic Development Corporation, and Yuba County Enterprise Solutions. So again, everybody, welcome and thank you for coming to this event this evening. Okay, let's get on to the next part. Oh yes, got to say this every time. I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA. So this is informational. We're not giving you like professional advice that you're supposed to act on. You can act on it if you want to, but what this statement here says is that the SBDC and its partner organizations don't take responsibility for anything that happens if you use the information that we share. Okay, so this, as I mentioned, is part of a series. It's every Wednesday through November 8th, so we got one more next week. And these are the dates and topics we've covered so far. We started on the 11th of October with starting your business, on the 18th with planning your business, last week with financing your business, and today is marketing your business, and then there's going to be one more financial one, which has to do with financial statements on the last session. And as we go along, if anybody has a question they want answered, please put it in the Q&A. But if you have something you want to share with people, like, for example, where you're located, what your name is, where you're located, and the nature of your business that you have or want to start, then please put that in the chat so everybody can see it. Okay, so objectives for tonight, we're supposed to teach you the fundamental principles of marketing, discuss the building blocks and how they all tie together, enrich your knowledge to take these learnings to apply them in your marketing efforts for your business. So that's what this is all about. This is not an academic class. This is This is about learning something and then being able to apply it. So that's our focus. So the agenda includes, so we're going to talk about what is marketing, an overview of what the process is that you go through to do marketing, market research, dividing up consumers into segments based on different kinds of demographic or other information that you have about them, and picking your specific target audience, positioning your product or your service in the mind of the customer, and then components of a marketing plan. So that's what we plan to cover this evening between now and 7 p.m. So we're going to start with what is marketing. So here's a definition: the action or business of promoting and selling products or services, including market research and advertising. So that's one definition. I'm sure there's lots, but that's the one we're going to use tonight. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between marketing and branding. So branding develops the foundation of the business. One way to think about it is to determine your value proposition, the benefits to your end user, right? And what is it? How can you communicate that, right? So let's say, Nike, it's the swoosh. Well, you think about movement, right, when you see that. So the idea of that brand is to get people to think, well, if you want to move, you want to run, you want to play, whatever, then buy our product, because that's what you're going to be able to do. So that's their brand. And marketing is promoting that. So once you have a brand, I mean, branding is part of marketing, but once you have a brand, then promoting that brand and developing the roadmap to deliver short and long-term growth to your business based on that brand. And you want to promote the brand's benefits to the end users, so they will buy your product or service. Okay, so marketing is multifaceted. It uses applied psychology, right? Understanding your customers is key. Just guessing about what people might want or how to communicate with them, probably not going to work very well. Talking to customers is a great way to find out what they want. And as you engage with customers, you find out in which ways do they receive information about a product or service like yours, and then you can use those channels to reach them. Okay, so marketing is both strategic and tactical. So strategy and tactics play hand in hand. Strategy is the direction of the goal, the objectives that you want to achieve. It's long term. It could be like, for example, 3 to 5 years, right? Tactics are specific actions that you take to get to that goal. So you want a strategy, but then you got to have the tactics to get there. And then you need a plan, right? Let's say you might have an annual marketing plan for your business, and then tactics are how you execute that plan during that year. Marketing is both a science and an art. So you want to have a balancing act between the science and the art. So the science part is you collect information, you test it, you analyze it, both qualitative and qualitative and quantitative data and information and then confirm your findings, right? You might do a survey. You might do a test marketing campaign, whatever it might be. And then you want to make sure you analyze the results to find out what works best, and then you can follow up by doing that. So the findings of whatever research you do determine the direction of your strategy. You want to go this way, you want to go that way. You want to be online, you want to be brick and mortar. They're very different. Online, then you have like a lot of social media and internet stuff. If it's brick and mortar, if you have a store, for example, then you have like point of sale advertising or marketing, things that you want to have in your store to get people to buy things there. And the art part of it is you want to engage in creative, exploratory, emotional, and visual artistry, right? Marketing is about, well, to use a much used phrase, thinking outside the box, right? Because if you just do the same old thing, like, how are you any different than anybody else, and why should people go for you? So you want to be creative. And again, questions or comments, questions, please put them in the Q&A, and comments, please put them in the chat. Okay, so I want to talk about the difference between messaging and conversations. So messaging is outbound, right? You craft a narrative and you message that out to your target audience. So it's one-way communication from you to them. Conversational marketing is inbound information from your target audience that you can listen to, respond to, and engage with them. So it's actually, it says it's inbound, but it's actually you get information coming in from your customers or potential customers, but then you engage with them as well in a conversation. Okay, so marketing can be both quick and slow. Quick in the sense that you might have a short-term call to action, time limitation. Buy today, limited number. You see this all over the internet. You go on Amazon and it's only 6 left. Okay. Same thing if you go on the Target app, only 4 left, whatever it might be. Or only, this sale lasts for another 20 minutes, right? Or Amazon sales days, it's like this sale is only today and tomorrow. Those kinds of things. So as I mentioned, social media, that's an example of that, right? You get that stuff right out there. And then you want quick hits to drive awareness and promotion for a specific product or a specific service. You might be launching it, or you have a sale or whatever. So the slow version of marketing is a thoughtful, methodical marketing campaign, right? You want to think out, what is your goal for that product or service? And then how can you reach that goal over a period of a year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it might be, through, like I said, a very thoughtful and methodical marketing campaign. The other thing about slow marketing is you want to build long-term brand awareness because you want customer loyalty and you want to build a relationship with your customer. So let's take, for example, Coke and Pepsi, right? Those are very well-known brands. They've been working on those brands for a long, long time. And I'll just give you an example. I used to work for Chiquita, the banana company, and I spent a lot of time, did a lot of work in Honduras and Guatemala and a number of other countries. And the Hollywood sign right up in the hills above Hollywood that says in huge letters, Hollywood. Well, on the mountain next to San Pedro Sula, Honduras, there's a sign about that might be that size, maybe not quite as big. And the sign says Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola has, really invested in building long-term brand awareness to drive loyalty and a relationship with their customers in Honduras. Now, on the other hand, in Guatemala, there's thousands of employees and workers who live in the farm labor camps around the Chiquita farms. And the division, the banana division in Guatemala, wanted to build a new stadium. And Pepsi said, oh, well, we'll pay for the stadium, but we get permanent, it's called, what is it called? I forget. Something rights. It's pouring rights, maybe it's called. In other words, you can only sell Pepsi and Pepsi products as the drinks in your stadium if we build it. So that's Pepsi's way of building long-term brand awareness and loyalty and relationships in Guatemala. Okay, so let's talk about the marketing ecosystem. So there's lots of different building blocks, a lot of moving parts in marketing, right? So let's take, for example, you can't just have like one block and say, okay, we're going to just do this. We're just going to do Facebook, or we're just going to do billboards. You have to figure out what are all the different pieces of your marketing program that you need to enact. So the blocks build on one another to deliver a big picture about the product or the service. So you need a part of an integrated, cohesive ecosystem that relies on being authentic, right? Because people will find you out if you're lying about your product or service, sooner or later, somebody's going to find it out and, big problem for you, right? And you'll need to be consistent over time, right? Because that's how people build a big market. And by the way, I have been mentioning from time to time, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A. If you have comments, put them in the chat. But I also said that I invite Crystal Martin to chime in whenever she wants. So please feel free to do that, Crystal, whenever you want to. And then we will have a time reserved for you later on.
Will do. Thanks, John.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's just stop right now and see if there's any questions. If you have questions, put them in the Q&A, and then, hopefully Crystal or I can answer your questions. And I'm going to go here and see if we got anything. Nothing in the Q&A yet. We do have a couple of things in the chat where people introduce themselves. That's great. So any questions or comments that you want to put at this point, please do put them in the chat. Now, I'm going to make this full, full screen again. Oh, I see. We do have one question. Oh, no, somebody said no questions. Okay, well, then we'll go ahead and move along. Find my floating meeting controls here. Go to the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit now about market research. So the first thing you need to know is the industry that you're in, right? Because that's going to affect how well your product or your service does. So you're going to get copies of, electronic copy of these slides and all these links. So I want to show you the first one. So here's some information about industries. So this is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and there's this huge list of industries, right? We'll just look at the A's, from accommodation to arts. So there's probably 25 of them, right? So as you go through here, you'll see there could be hundreds altogether of industries that are listed, at least 100 anyway. So that, and each one of those, let's take, well, I was just talking about that stadium in Guatemala. So let's just take a look at this. So performing arts, spectator sports, etc. Right? So here's some information about that, right? It talks about, you got actors and actresses, singers, dancers, etc. And then, you have like subsectors like this, and then there's information about employment in the field. And then how many people in the United States, anyway, are working these fields, how much they earn, all this information. So it gives you a lot of information about a specific industry. Okay, so there's that. So you want to know your industry. Also, you want to know your brand, right? Your brand is your image, right? It's what gets into people's mind and makes them think a certain way about you. So make sure you know what your brand is. For example, I remember when I was working with Chiquita, we were doing a training and we wanted to make a booklet that we would be giving out to the employees with information for them about what the training was about. And that was the only time I ever had a contact with somebody in the company who was the head of brand. And she said, okay, now the logo, it has to be this logo, and it has to have exactly these colors. You can't change them in any way, and etc. So you can't have this around it or whatever. So you have to be very careful about knowing your brand and protecting your brand so that it's consistent. Okay, then you want to know your competitors. So here's some information where you can do a competitive analysis at this Small Business Administration site. So here's, for example, so here's this one. Let's see. Okay, so you can find out things about market share, strengths and weaknesses, etc., etc. Let's see if we've got some more here. So let's find out where there's stuff about the competition. Not finding specifics here. Might take a little while to poke around in here to find it, but I just want to show you that's where the site is. Another thing you want to know, so you got, okay, so let's talk about direct and indirect competitors. So did we get somebody to say what industry they were in? I don't recall. Oh, yeah, somebody was there who said that. And that was Hamid. And Hamid said the company is fulfillments.com. It's a 3PL, it's a logistics company. Okay. So who would be somebody, Hamid or somebody else, put in the chat, what would be an example of a direct competitor for a logistics company? Terrific. You have one. DHL, absolutely. DHL, UPS, FedEx. Because if you're not one of those companies, they are your direct competitors. Because what's logistics? Getting things from point A to point B. So now, can anybody think of an indirect competitor to a company like DHL, for example? What would be an indirect competitor? It's not going to be UPS. It's not going to be FedEx. What would be the nature of a company that gets things from point A to B, but doesn't use that kind of logistics to do it? Could be Amazon. Let's let's take Amazon. Okay, so if you buy a DVD, so the post office is another. These are all, yes. Some of these might be indirect. Uber, for example, might be indirect. But let me just share with you one example here. Somebody mentioned Amazon. So if you want to buy a DVD, you could buy it, and maybe the logistics company that would handle that would be DHL or FedEx or UPS or whatever. But is there another way that you can? So if you buy a DVD, what? So what is the problem that you want to solve by buying a DVD? Could somebody put in the chat? Because when somebody buys something, it's either to solve a problem or to take advantage of some opportunity that they want to take advantage of. So what's the problem they're trying to solve? Right. So that's Crystal. That's exactly right. So okay. So the problem you're trying to solve is you want entertainment, right? And buying a DVD is one way to do that. But now we have streaming services, right? And so it's not a direct competitor, because it's not logistics in the sense of getting a thing, a physical object from point A to point B. But with streaming now, or downloading, absolutely, that's another way. That's an indirect competitor to logistics companies. They're going to be moving less DVDs if more and more people are downloading and streaming. That's terrific thinking. Thank you. Okay, and you also need to know your customers. Very important to know your customers, and you want to identify the target audience. Here's some information about that. This is from the South Bay in Los Angeles, South Bay SBDC. So here's steps for defining your target audience. So you want to think about, what, let's say you want to know, hold on, let me just skip down for a second. Okay. So you want to know, why do your customers buy for you, and what do they care about, and what are they willing to pay? Where do they buy your product or service? Do they come in the store? Do they do it online? Do they do it at the farmer's market? Right? When do they do that? Is it morning? Is it seasonal? Is it, whatever it might be? So these are ways you can think about who is your target audience, as opposed to everybody in the world. The worst thing for a company to do is say, we're going to sell everything to everybody. Now, granted, there is one company that's being very successful at that, but it didn't start that way. It started as a bookseller, an online bookseller, and that's Amazon. All Jeff Bezos did when he started was sell books out of his garage, right? But it grew into basically selling everything to everybody. But that's rare. So you need to figure out who your target audience is. And you want to understand, what do they need and what do they want? And you want to know the factors that impact their decision-making process and their purchasing behavior. Are they money conscious? Are they image conscious? Are they quality conscious? What is it about your customers that might be different from like all the other customers of the world, or your potential customers from all the other potential customers? And you want to know what their characteristics are, because those are the people you want to sell to.
So one thing I would add in
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
John, is that it's really important to shop your competitors as well, especially the really successful ones. Going through the process of ordering from them, or whatever that service or product is that they have that you're going to try to offer, going through the whole process and seeing exactly how they do it and what you could potentially do better than that, and then looking at their website, their marketing materials, and stealing as much good stuff as you can find from that. No need to reinvent the wheel, especially from your successful competitors.
Right. There's nothing wrong with using other people's ideas. If they have something trademarked or copywritten, then you don't use it, right? But if they've got a good idea, no reason you can't use their good idea. Okay, so now let's talk about market research, and there's a link here for that. I think there is. There we go. So this is from the National SBDC, and this is market research services that they offer. So, for example, let me find out its competitor list. Oh, I'm not finding. I thought these were links. I don't see that they're not. That's odd. But these are things that you can contact them about and get information about. So we looked at that other slide about, or that other website about competitors. So you can contact them and get information about competitors. So there's different kinds of market research. One is primary. This is the same thing if you're in science or anything. There's basically, you can talk about two kinds of research. So there's primary and secondary. So primary research is in the field. You are collecting the information yourself from your primary sources, whoever they might be, customers or whoever else, right? So here's an example. So this is actually somebody who used to work for the person who wrote this used to work for the Sacramento Small Business Development Center, and he wrote something called "How to Ask Your Customers the Right Questions." So the idea here is, his name is Dan Casas Murray, by the way. So there's question to ask your customers. So you don't say, "Will you buy my product?" Because they're going to say, they're going to want to make people tend to want to say what they think you're going to want to hear, right? So of course they're all going to say yes. So then you say, okay, great. Well, it's $10. They go, oh, well, I don't have any money on me. Or that's too expensive. Or not, right? Okay. So you don't actually ask them if they're a customer, but you ask them something. Well, let me give you an example. So I was recently involved with a sunscreen company. And when we started our process a few years ago, we needed to go talk to customers. And I thought, well, who's the best possible customer I can think of for sunscreen? Oh, my fair-skinned neighbor with a toddler who was also fair-skinned, right? So I just went over there and I said, hey, can I talk to you a little bit about, I didn't say I want to talk to you about sunscreen. I said, I want to talk to you about you and your daughter being out in the sun, right? Tell me about your experience with that. And then she started talking about, oh, well, we're so fair skinned, we get sunburned easy, and I'm worried about skin cancer and blah, blah, blah. So now I know she's a customer, right? She's a potential customer. So then I'll say, well, tell me a story about the last time you had this problem. Well, we went to the beach and we bought this sunscreen and oh, it was so greasy. And then, we got in the water and it washed right off. And, I don't know, whatever. It didn't smell good. So I found out what she cared about, right? So what was hard about that? Well, it was all white and you'd put it on and it was like really hard to like rub it in. And then it was hard to get it off, whatever. And then how bad was that? Well, that was pretty bad. It took a long time to get it on, then I couldn't get it off my hands. And then we got home and it was scrub, and the kid didn't like it, and etc. And then you say, like I said, customers have an objective. They want to solve a problem or take advantage of an opportunity. So how do you currently achieve this objective? Well, we buy brand X, whatever it is, right? And then now you know who the competitor is. That's brand X, if you want to do brand Y, for example, and you know what's good or maybe mostly bad about the other one. So you want to do something better and different from that other one. And you can find that out by talking to customers. So there's a link to this whole article right here. So you directly collect firsthand information yourself. Amazing story I want to share with you. Guy here in Sacramento, Roseville, I guess he is, Mark Randall. He's a software guy, and he was in San Francisco, and he was making software. And anyway, at some point he moved out to Rancho Cordova, and he was doing it there. But he said to himself, it costs a lot of money to develop a software package, but it doesn't cost very much money to print a box that a software package would go in, right? That you'd have like a CD-ROM to go in the box, right? So he went and talked to a computer store, and he says, I want to do some market research. Can you give me a little bit of shelf space for some boxes of software that I'm working on developing? I don't have the product yet. I want to get information from customers. And he found a computer store that said yes. He put these boxes. I think he had like a CD case with a blank CD inside, right? It was all sealed up, probably plastic or taped up, whatever. And he just put them on the end of the aisle there. And he walked down to the other end, and he just sort of made like a customer, and he was looking at stuff at the end. And when somebody would go and pick up the box, he would walk over and say, oh, thank you so much for your interest in my product. I'm curious to know, if you don't mind, share with me what was what was it that motivated you to pick this up? And they would tell him, right? And he would get, well, what problem are you trying to solve, and what are you using now? All the stuff I was just talking about, right? Now he didn't want to like defraud them, right? So he said, well, let me just tell you, this product is in development. It's not ready yet, but he would say, okay, here's a coupon. When it's ready, here's a coupon. You get a free copy for being so nice and answering my questions. So that's like the best information you could get. That's somebody who's actually thinking about buying it. And then you get the information from them. So this is an example. A conversation with somebody that's not in the store, like my neighbor, that works, or this Mark Randall thing works great too. The idea is that you're directly collecting firsthand information for yourself. That's primary research. And you have absolute control over it, right? You create the survey, all the questions. You can have a focus group, invite who you want. You're in control of all the questions and how the conversation goes. It's yours, right? So you get exactly what you want. But it's expensive because it's time consuming to get information from the field. So that's why there's secondary research, right? That's stuff you can do at your desk. So here's some information about that. So this is back to that other thing I showed you before, the market research and competitive analysis information on the Small Business Administration site. So with secondary research, you're relying on already existing data that's been collected both by and from others, right? There's tons of stuff on the internet and in libraries, and there's databases you can buy. I mean, there's all this stuff that's available to you now that you can do, and it may not be exactly what you're looking for, like this is, like primary information is, but it's much quicker and much less expensive. I see we have something in the Q&A. Text me the book title. What was the book that we were referring to? Don't recall. What was it about? And we got something in Q&A. Oh, that's a great way. That might be the thing about the computer store thing. What do we have here? So text me the book title. I'm sorry, I just don't recall which book. So if you put something back in there about what was it about, that might jog my memory. Or maybe Joseph or Crystal, if you know what the book title thing is. Oh, okay. Asking customers. Yeah, I don't think it was a book. I think it was the link here from the primary field research. This is an article that Dan Casas Murray wrote called How to Ask Your Customers the Right Questions. And you have access to that when you get these slides. You will have access to that when you click on this primary field research link. Hope that answered your question. Okay. Okay, so what else about secondary research? The thing is, you don't have any control over data creation or collection, right? Because somebody else did it. It might not be exactly what you want. It might be old. You have to worry about whether it was, it was gathered in a way that gives the data credibility, right? Because you're not controlling how it's gathered. But it's more affordable, maybe even free, and you can access it right there from your desk or your phone or whatever, right? Okay, so that's some things about market research. Okay, so there's information from all kinds of trade associations. There are associations just about every different kind of occupation or industry, and you can get lots of information from those. You can also get information from the Chamber of Commerce. For example, the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce, which is one of the sponsors of this course. So for example, you'll have a member directory. Some chambers make it available to everybody. It looks like they do. One of my favorites here, 1 Million Cups. They're right there first because they have the number one. That's part of their name, right? So there are all these businesses. You can find out about businesses in the area. Here's like a newsletter. They've got webinars they've done, labor law information. So there's all kinds of information that's available to you from a Chamber of Commerce. Some of it's available if you're not a member, and some of it you have to be a member to get access to it.
So one thing I would add to that is to make sure that you're giving yourself an annual reminder to go check all of your listings that you have at these organizations. If you're paying to be part of the chamber, at least once a year, you need to be popping over there and making sure that you still have your correct phone number and emails and contacts. All that stuff is still good, so that people those can be lead generators for you.
Absolutely, that's great. Thank you so much. I don't know why that is. Oh, you know what? These are. Oh, for some reason when I'm clicking, I'm not seeing them, and I'm going to the links. Okay, but so I'll do it a different way. Okay, so there are research companies that put out reports. A lot of these are very expensive, but they could be worth it. So Gartner is one, right? And I don't want to accept their cookies, so I'm going to get out of there. Nielsen is the one who's been doing the TV ratings for, I don't know, 60, 65, 70 years or something now. I don't know, a long time. So they don't just do TV ratings. They do lots of other market research. Let's see if I can go down from here. You can do market research on Google. Go to your competitors' websites. Just as Crystal was saying, go through the buying process with your competitors. Look at their website. See what they've got. How do they market their products? All that stuff. Public libraries. We have the Sutter County Library. They got lots of information that can be useful to you. And the Yuba County Library, same thing. The U.S. Census has tremendous information. If you are, for example, in the real estate business, they have all this information about home values and family sizes and demographic trends, like where people are moving from and where they're moving to. There's all kinds of information on the U.S. Census site. And this is a good time of the decade to access it because they do it, I think, like they do it every 10 years. I think it's in 2020, 2030, and it takes them a couple of years to analyze all the information. A lot of it comes out pretty quick, but some of it takes a couple of years to come out. So this is a good time to get information because it's probably all out there by now. So there's a bunch of market research tools and resources. This link gives you access to 20 of them. So some of them are here. There is, for example, okay, so there's Statistica. I mentioned about Google Research, the Census Bureau, SurveyMonkey. You can do your own surveys for free. If you don't have more than 10 questions and 100 people who are responding to your survey, then you can do that for free, or you can pay them and increase that number quite a bit. And I mentioned about Nielsen. So there's Qualtrics is another competitor to SurveyMonkey. It's much more sophisticated but more expensive. So there's all kinds of information that's available to you to do that kind of tools, I should say, to do that kind of research. Let's see if we got anything more on this page. We do not. So let's see if there's any questions or comments at this point. See if there's anything in the Q&A or the chat before I go on. Okay, so let's talk about the competitive landscape. So you want to know your competitors and the landscape, right? You want to know, so what's the ecosystem that they're in? We do have a question. Oh, which is no questions. Okay. Let's see what else. So you want to identify both the direct competitors and the indirect competitors in your space, and you want to research them. So you want to know, what are their value propositions? What is the value that they offer, the value and the benefits that they offer to their consumers? Because you need to know what those are so you can make sure that yours are different and better. What are their key attributes? What are their prices? What's their quality? Where are they located? Are they on the internet and they're everywhere? Are they in one little place? Or you want to know all that stuff. And then you want to do a perceptual map, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And a perceptual map is used to visually see market gaps. I want to talk a little bit about a book called The Blue Ocean Strategy. So these two consultants wrote this book, and maybe they're academics. They are definitely also consultants, I know that. So they wrote a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. And the idea here is that if you think of the ocean, most marine life is near the shore, right? There's coral reefs and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty near the shore. Well, the thing is, there's a lot of competition there. They call it the red ocean because there's a lot of blood in the water, right? The sharks are out there, a lot of sharks, and they're out there for a lot of food, right? So that's the red ocean. But the blue ocean is farther out, where there's not, huge numbers of predator and prey. I'm not saying that businesses are predators and customers are prey, but the point here is that you don't have so much activity going on out there. And so they call that the blue ocean. So I want to give you an example. So of a company that's been very successful at the blue ocean strategy, right? So let's say that, now I know circuses are not as popular as they used to be, but they used to be very popular, and they still go around, and people still go to circuses, right? Been a lot of criticism about the treatment of animals and everything, and that's been a problem. But at any rate, there was a time there were lots of circuses, and the thing is that they competed with each other, right? Because they did pretty much all the same thing. They had animals, and they had trapeze artists, and they had clowns, and they had, they were all pretty similar. And they had people selling food in the stands. It was noisy and stinky and all that, right? Well, somebody got the idea to do something that was very much like a circus, but took out a lot of things that people don't like about the circus, and put in some things that people don't get to experience at a circus. And it's called Cirque du Soleil. If anybody's ever been to a Cirque du Soleil show, put yes in the chat, we'll know. So the thing about Cirque du Soleil is, so let's see if we got a yes here. Okay. So Crystal, if you wouldn't mind, and the other person, I can't see the whole name here, whoever's writing here, please put, where did you see them and how much did a ticket cost? Because this will be useful to what we're going to be talking about in a minute. So in Cirque du Soleil, there's a lot of things like a circus, right? There's like trapeze artists, there's acrobatics, there's like gymnastic kind of stuff, and there's music. Oftentimes there's music at a circus, right? But it's so much more elegant. It's elegant costumes and choreography and music and all that kind of stuff. And the place doesn't smell bad because there's no elephant poop, right? And you can pay attention to the show because there's nobody walking down right there in front of you, bumping into everybody's knees trying to sell you popcorn, right? So they took out some things and they put in some things. It's still sort of a circus, but it's different. And for many people, it's better. So let's take an example here. So somebody saw it in Las Vegas. It was more than 150 bucks. And Crystal paid about $100 in Las Vegas. So the thing is, how much do you pay for a ticket at the circus? I don't think it's $100. It's not $150. Hopefully you can get your whole family in for 100 or $150, right? Plus popcorn at the circus. So the thing is, people are willing to pay more because it's different, and for them it's better. For kids, maybe the circus is like the best thing ever, but adults, like some of that stuff gets a little old after a while. So that's an example of the blue ocean strategy and how you make yourself different and better, so that you need to find out what's the competition doing now, and then how can I be different and better in the future. And you can also, let's say you've already got a brand, and now maybe you want to reposition your brand in the mind of your customers in relation to the competitors, right? So now I want to show you a couple of perceptual maps. So here's one, right? So you got brand A, B, and C, and they are high price and high quality. Well, I should say relatively high price and relatively high quality. The highest one would be, if you can see people can see my cursor, I assume. If you were the highest price and the highest quality, you'd be over here. So there's nobody over here. And then you've got brand D, which is, I've got to hide my meeting controls here. So that's high quality, but a lower price. In fact, it's even higher quality than these. Sounds to me like they're in a blue ocean, right? Because if you're better and cheaper than the the other high quality competitors, people are going to go to you. Now these are cheaper, but they're not very good. So people are go, well, I don't want to go to that, right? So that's a generic example. So now I want to give you another example. Let's talk about mass market moisturizing soaps. Okay, so here you got Dove, Caress, Olay, and Ivory, right? They have conventional ingredients, right? And Ivory is cheap. Dove's a little bit more expensive. Now Aveeno's over here, and Aveeno, they don't use conventional ingredients. They use natural ingredients, and they're higher priced. And they can get a higher price because they can say, we have natural ingredients, as opposed to all those other ones that don't. So they took a look at, here's where most of the players are now, and we're going to be over here instead. So the next one is not actually a perceptual map, but I want to give you an example that I'm very familiar with, is the work I did with a sunscreen company. So here, this is a screenshot from Consumer Reports of the ratings of sunscreens. And this starts with, I took this maybe about a year ago. Took this screenshot maybe a year ago. I don't know, 6-8 months or a year, whatever, something like that at the time. And these ratings change depending on which brands they study and different things like that. But what they found was that, according to Consumer Reports, at that time, the best sunscreen by a significant amount, 5 points, that's something, was La Roche-Posay and Thelios Melt-In Milk Lotion SPF 60. Okay, cost you $34. Now, and these are similar sized containers. Some of them are a little bigger. This one might be bigger because it's a Walmart brand, right? These might be a little bigger. So these, I want to point out, these numbers here, they're not SPF, they're not sun protection factors. These are Consumer Reports' overall rating of the product. So they rated them on three things. One is UVA protection. How much does it protect you from ultraviolet radiation? UVA-A, not UVA-B. UVA-A is more superficial, affects the surface of your skin. UVA-B affects more underneath the surface. Okay, so UVA protection, SPF, because it's got to be at least 30 SPF, because less than 30 is not great protection. Much over 30 and you're just wasting your money, right? And then the third thing, and this is very interesting, variation from SPF. And what that means is that they put a number, all the sunscreens put a number on their product, what they say their SPF is. 60, 50, 30, 50, 50 plus, 50, 30 plus, and 30, okay? But let me see if, so here, this one here, California kids, they are in fact 30 or above. But one like Banana Boat, if they say they're 50 or above, they could actually be at 25 or below. They lie. So that gives you the overall rating. But now the point I want to make here is this is the best one, but it's expensive. But look, you can get one that's pretty close for $5. And now you got another one that's the third best for another, also over $30, and another Walmart one that's $5. So this gives you an idea of where they are, right? So this is high quality, high price, high quality, low price. So people buy a lot of Walmart sunscreen. They may or may not know how good it is. They might just be buying it because they go to Walmart and it's cheap, but they're also getting a good deal because they're better. So this is sort of related to this, right? So you would put, for example, I should do this for next time. So you put La Roche-Posay. La Roche-Posay would be here, and Walmart would be over here. So it's high quality. I should go back here, sorry. High quality. So La Roche-Posay would be here. This one would be here. So let's take another example where it would be. So these are all chemical sunscreens, which are more effective than like what are called physical or mineral sunscreens, which are titanium oxide and zinc oxide. They're less effective. And so those they'd go down here because they're not so great quality, right? They don't protect you very well. So there's that. Okay, I don't want to spend any more time on sunscreen than I need to, but you can see here high quality and low quality, and you can see the prices. So let's stop for a minute, see what questions you have. Pop questions in the Q&A. Make any comments you want in the chat before we go on. And while we're waiting to see if somebody writes something, Crystal, if you have anything you'd like to share at this point, please do.
I think I'm good right now, John.
Okay. So we do have something in the chat. Oh, no questions. Okay, well, we'll move right on. Okay, we're going to talk about the marketing process, right? So you want to start by segmenting the audience into different groups. So segmenting the market, right? It might be by gender, it might be by geography, it might be by income. There's all kinds of ways you can segment the market. And then you pick what is my target market, right? And then you create a buyer persona, like a fictitious person who's like he's like the stereotype, the epitome, the I don't know, I was going to use another word, of your target or audience. And then you want to figure out, how do you position your product in that person's mind so that they see it as the best alternative for them? And then we're going to talk about the marketing 4 Ps. We'll do that in just a minute in detail. Oh, we're supposed to do a knowledge check, but we're going to go on here. Okay, so now we're going to go into what I talked about, the segmentation and target audience. Okay, so let's say that you're a pizza company, okay? And you're in the Bay Area. So your whole market is all of the Bay Area pizza consumers. That's millions of people, right? But are you really going to be able to sell pizza to everybody? So here's some segments. One segment is soccer moms. Another segment is working professionals, and another one is college students. Okay, so now we're going to take a look here. So you want to define who your different segments are and what their purpose is in buying pizza. They might have different reasons for buying it, right? So you divide your market into homogeneous groups. That soccer moms are more similar with each other, for example, than college students, and they're more similar with each other than working professionals. So you can here's some categories, and I want you to remember these. So there's demographics, which is age, income, gender, education, things like that. Then there's geographics. Where are they? East Bay, South Bay, Peninsula, San Francisco, Marin, like that. Then you have psychographics, which is like their attitudes, their values, their lifestyle. So you can categorize segments in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to just be demographics or behavioral. Based on how they purchase things, how they use things, right? Is it occasional? Is it frequent? Are they buyers for, some organization? They buy lots of something. Okay. Or you can combine them. Okay, so let's just take soccer moms and college students as two market segments. So you focus on the most relevant ones. So you started with 3 and you whittled it down to 2. And you decided those were the most relevant to you for your business. So because they have a greater need for time-sensitive consumption and convenience, right? They got to eat between classes, and they got to have food ready when the kids get home, right? So those two groups maybe are more, more interested in your product than the other. And they might be more budget oriented. So I'm not going to go into all these details, but here's 2 buyer personas. One's soccer mom, Sarah. The other one's educated Eddie. She's a blogger. She stays at home. She's got 2 boys. She's a journalist, and et cetera, et cetera. So she wants to make sure the meals are ready for the kids. Got lots to do, finding the time. Those are all the kinds of things. What the income is, all that stuff, right? So here's educated Eddie. So a student lives off or rents off campus, class schedule, part-time job, school activities, right? Lot less income, usually younger, a lot less income. And the thing is that, they might be time starved and sleep deprived. And so they gotta get things moving when it's time to eat, right? Okay, so I showed a slide a minute ago, and I talked about the various categories that you can use, the major categories that you can use to segment the market. So if you would, just pop the name of any one of those categories into the chat. Anyone that you remember. I'm going to sneak up here. See where I'm going with this, right? Going in that direction. Anybody remember any categories? Somebody's got one. 2 people have them. Soccer mom and student. So those are target audiences. What I'm asking you is, see if I can get to this here. The categories you can use to segment the market. There were 4 or 5 of them. It was right before the target.
I can't answer, right, John?
Anybody but Crystal. Age. So that's a part of a category. So that's the part of the demographic. Sorry, I have to click up here. It's not wanting to go anywhere. I don't know why. Okay. It got frozen. I'll get it unfrozen. It was here, right? Or was it before? Oh, here we go. Come on. So demographics, geographics. So demographic, age is part of that. Geographics, their location. Psychographics is like attitudes. Behavioral is like what they do. And then we got something in the chat. So demographics is the overall category that age is a part of. Okay, so now let's skip out of that and we'll just go all the way down here. Up. Now we got a very interesting thing we're going to do in just a minute. Okay, so now we're going to talk about positioning. So positioning is what you do to the mind of the prospect. It's how you position the product or service in their mind. So I want to go into that in some detail. So that's what leverages your value proposition. Your value proposition is what you can do for them that they want, right? And by positioning leverages that value proposition by putting it in their mind in such a way that they think of your product or your service in a certain way, and then they will tend to act in terms of buying your product or service because they think that way. So positioning is a subset of the value proposition. It's more focused and it's more tailored to specific consumer segments. You're going to want to position your product or your service differently for different segments. And you want a positioning statement or a set of statements to do that. So it's a structured statement, and I'm going to give you a very specific example here in just a minute. It's a structured statement that defines the what, the how, and the why the brand is differentiated in their minds. What is it? How do you present? How is it differentiated in their mind, and why is it differentiated in their mind? So let's go on to the next part here and give you an example. We were talking about pizza before, right? So it's a specific sentence. Come on. It's used in internal documents and creative briefs to marketing agencies and freelancers. So you're going to write a positioning statement, and then your marketing materials are going to be based on that positioning statement. So the creative people then develop external messaging and marketing communication like taglines and advertising, all that stuff, based on what that positioning statement is. It's a focused and structured sentence that includes the following. Who's the target audience? What's their pain point? In other words, what's the problem they're trying to solve? What's their frame of reference? How do they think about the world in relation to that problem? What's the point of difference? What is your unique selling proposition? In other words, how are you different and better than the competition? What's the end benefit? And what's their end benefit is like, how does that benefit the consumer? And then they need a reason to believe that it's true, because you can say it, but unless they believe it, doesn't mean anything. So you have to give them a reason to believe that it's true. So here's a framework. And now I'm going to give you a very specific example. So you can see target audience. Oh, look, I'm pointing at the screen like you're going to see it, right? Target audience, problem to solve, the brand, the frame of reference, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so here we go with the example. So to busy, time-sensitive, value-conscious pizza lovers, so that's supposedly college students and soccer moms, who don't have time to cook but seek a filling, fast, and affordable meal, Domino's Pizza is a national pizza restaurant chain that delivers tasty, hot, affordable pizza to their doorsteps within 30 minutes. I'm going to come back up to this slide in just a moment. So they can save time and enjoy their meal with family and friends in the comfort and convenience of their home, because strong operations and delivery platform ensure consistent, reliable, fast deliveries. That's the reason to believe. So you got all these things here. Target audience, the problem they have, your brand, the frame of reference, like what are they, how are they different, what's the end benefit, and what's the reason to believe. Now, I said I was going to go back up. I'm doing that for a reason. I want to show you two Domino's commercials, and they're not what you expect. I think they're probably not going to be what you expect if you haven't seen them. So let's watch one of them, and then we'll watch another. Somebody's at my door. Jack, can you answer the door? Sorry for the interruption. Oh, that didn't work. Come on. Here we go. Oh, sorry. I realize I have to enable the sound. I have to go out of screen sharing. And then I have to go to sharing again. Then I have to share the sound. And I'm going to share that thing again. And now we're going to watch. We might not watch the whole commercial. We'll see how much we do. If you can't hear me, then put something in the chat. Say I can't hear. If you can't hear, you know what I mean.
There comes a time when you know you've got to make a change. You know, you can't lead a company like this unless you love food. I love food. I love pizza. It was about 50 years ago that they started the first store just about 5 miles from here.
Two brothers had a great idea, and they also said they wanted to get it delivered within 30 minutes, and that's something that no one said could be done. In fact, the first pizza delivery vehicle for our company is that vehicle right there. Around the 80s, we were exploding. We were the fastest growing company in the history of franchise business. Nothing had ever grown like that.
Now we're almost 9,000 restaurants around the world. We love what we do at Domino's.
Pizza, where's the love? How hard? Bread, sauce, cheese, fresh ingredients. Doesn't feel like there's much love in Domino's pizza.
Domino's pizza crust to me is like cardboard.
Is it hard to watch this stuff? Is this
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
I hear what some folks are saying about our stuff.
Oh, this one's bad. Worst excuse for pizza I've ever had.
The sauce tastes like ketchup.
Totally void of flavor.
You know what? When you first hear it, it's shocking.
The cardboard complaint is the most common one.
This we hear.
Okay, so I'm not going to spend more time on that, but I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to close that one. You get the, hopefully you got the idea, right? That customers, it was great to get it in 30 minutes, but they didn't like what they got, right? That was, I think that was about in 2005 that they like said, we got a problem here. We got to fix it, right? Okay, so now I want to show you what they did and the commercial that they made about it. They actually went back to members of focus groups, and they spent 3 years making a new recipe, and they went to members of the focus groups, and they gave them pizzas and asked them what they thought.
We're going to see Claudia. She has no idea we're coming. She said some pretty harsh stuff about our old pizza. We're going to bring the new pizza. Let's see what happens. Domino's Pizza!
Yes.
Claudia?
Yes.
Claudia, did you say...
Give the Domino's head chef more freedom to make a pizza that's not a formula.
Yes, I did.
Claudia, I happen to have the head chef from Domino's here, and he'd like to ask you a couple of questions, too.
He looks mad.
I'm not mad. Because your comments helped us create a brand new Domino's pizza. New sauce, new crust, new cheese. Want to try it?
Sure. Looks good. It's actually really good.
Is there enough cheese on it?
Lots of cheese.
Lots of cheese.
It is very good.
Now, you're not just saying that because the camera's
No,
there.
I'm really...
I mean, we want the real Claudia, the one we saw on the tape.
You can't see the sauce through the top. It's really good. You guys, I'm so impressed, really. I can't believe a company would do that. I'm so really impressed that you guys really took it seriously. I can't believe.
Okay, so it's pretty amazing when it's pretty amazing that a company will actually tell people that people said our food tasted terrible, right? But then they said we spent 3 years making it better, and they gave you an example of this. They made it better in 2008. Now, some people might not say it's better, but anyway, they did that in 2008, and they started rolling out these commercials. And I want you to take a look at their stock price. So this, I'll show you in just a minute here. This is their stock price in 2008. And you can see for, I think, like 9 years straight, 8 or 9 years straight, the stock price just kept going up and up and up and up, right? They did tremendously well. Now, they did have a blip there and up and down. Then we had the pandemic, right? I think pizza would go up in the pandemic. Well, this is right before the pandemic. But my point I want to make is that this is about positioning, right? Their position in people's mind was before this was they get pizza here fast, but it doesn't taste very good. And now now they get it fast and it does taste good, and they just skyrocketed. Okay. Let's move on. Again. Okay. So anybody at all, put in the chat, please, any one of the elements of the positioning statement.
John, I would just add quickly that we have a lot cheaper focus groups now, and that's online reviews. And they let everybody know how they feel. And I think what's really important as a business is to not shy away from responding to both the positive and the negative reviews. Right. A lot of the algorithms now, especially on Google, will push you higher if you are responding to reviews. And it's acknowledging the problem, telling them how you're going to change it, and thanking them for that. And then again, sometimes I even go so far as to say, hey, if you come back and try us again and you have a better time, would you consider changing this review? We're a small business and we really thrive on reviews, and we'd appreciate that a lot. And about half the time they do.
Terrific. That's great. Thank you. Who, what, and how. Yeah. So let's just scoot back up a couple of slides. So there we go. Target audience, problem to solve, brand, frame of reference, point of difference, and benefit, and reason to believe. Okay. So if we had time, and you can do this we don't, so you're going to do this on your own. You can make a copy of this positioning statement, and then you can make a copy first, and then you type in there. And you can do your own positioning statement by using that format. Okay, so we're going to talk about a marketing plan, and this is where Crystal really gets to shine, because I want to ask her if she can talk about marketing plan components and anything else she wants to talk about.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, and you want to share your screen, right?
Yeah, I was looking at the ways that I couldn't.
Yeah, you can now, I think. Is she a co-host? Let me see.
There we go. All right. Well, let's see which screen I've got to share here.
And we have about 17 minutes left, but I only have a little wrap up after you're done.
Okay. So are you seeing a marketing calendar that says Villa's Luxury Apartments?
That's correct. We see it.
All right, so what we were just talking about with consumer segments and how all the different ways that you're going to target folks, this is a real simple type of marketing calendar that if you look down right here at the bottom, this particular client was targeting 3 different segments. They were targeting existing areas in the area renters. They were targeting corporate rentals and transitional housing folks. And then we had a category that was both of those. So that's the color coordination that you'll see throughout here. So when this went right from the top of the company, where we actually had to create the logo and do some professional photography, create the plan, into print advertising, collateral that they needed for ribbon cutting and brochures, interactive, meaning your website, web ads, in public relations, so the chamber ribbon cutting events or different articles, press releases. Direct mail was still something that was going on in this area. So we had postcards targeting renters in the area. And then we had promotions. So promotions that would run a certain amount of time. This was a 3-month campaign that lasted from February to April. Then on this side, I would say like that left side is the most important aspect of it. It's just trying to make sure that all the things that you're targeting, you know why you're targeting those things and who you're actually going to be getting out of it. The stuff on the right side is how much it cost and how many total circulation you think you were going to get out of it. So you can kind of figure out your return on investment for each of your items there. All right, I'm going to show you something else. So this is another one for another client. This was for a client that was going to be doing a conference, for an association conference. So we were marketing to past attendees was one group, members, non-members, sponsors and exhibitors was another one. So again, we go down and we look at, over the course of 6 months, last year, what did we do? We had different collateral that had to be made. We had interactive, everything from websites, e-blast, Google Ads, Facebook, Twitter. And we had partnerships that we were doing with other exhibitors and sponsors where we were at their events. We had the program that we had to print, and then we had a contingency piece of it. So again, making sure that what is that overall budget that you had? This client had $40,000 to market for this conference. And how are we going to spend that? And how do we justify every single dollar and every expense in that? One other thing I wanted to show you, well, actually 2 things. So we had talked about a little bit about tracking what's going on in your world. So this is a client every single month for marketing, we update their numbers. So as we just hit November 1st, I'll be going in and updating all of their October numbers for them. This happens to be a health club. So the marketing that we care about in terms of online is our website. How many people are coming to it, how many new people are coming to it, because that's really important to make sure that number stays strong. How many page visits, how many leads, and then how many of those transition to an online sale. We track our Facebook, and that's where we spend, a good amount of money for this client each month is on Facebook, and we track how much we received off of that. We do Instagram, and then we track our reputation at the bottom. So, actually one more thing, we do Google AdWords too. So Google AdWords, that's another significant spend. And then we track our reputation on Yelp and on Google, and we compare it to our top competitors in the market. Again, making sure you're tracking and you want to stay, this client is at a 4.3 and their competitors at 3.3, 2.3, 3.2. We're still doing good for them. You want to stay ahead of those competitors. And the final thing I wanted to show you was, let me see if I can find it here. As starting even as simple as just figuring out what promotions you want to do each month, and starting with that as a basis for then how much are you willing to spend on that? So this again is for a health club. We have a different offer that we run each calendar month, and we're able to do online sales. So we have promo codes where we can track the effectiveness of the offers that we're doing. Sometimes you'll have multiple offers within a month, like the month of November coming up. We've got this fabulous thing called Black Friday that we get to do. So for a few days, we'll launch into a pretty aggressive marketing campaign for them. And what I think is really important is starting this calendar and then doing some slight tweaks on it each year and not trying to reinvent the wheel. What is most important to customers is consistency. Whether it's, you're going to a restaurant and you want to have consistent food and consistent hours, or you want a supplier that is going to consistently be on time and, bill you correctly and that sort of thing. So whatever it is that you can be consistent with, do that. I see so many customers who will try something once and say, oh, it didn't work. The first time that you launch a Black Friday sale, it's not going to go fabulous, or maybe it'll go, a little okay. The next year, it's going to be better. And the next year after that, it's going to be better. And that again is why you track over time. So we also you can track year over year. So for this particular client, we track how many online joins. This year to date, we've had 159, whereas last year we had 149. So we're moving in the right direction. And that's a way to give yourself a little pat on the back along the way. I'll stop sharing and take any questions that you had on that.
So please put any questions in the Q&A, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to my slides while you're doing that, and do the wrap up. So there's one more major topic I want to talk with you about, and that's, as Crystal was talking about, the marketing plan and what's called the 4 Ps, right? Every single marketing textbook is going to have the 4 Ps in it, right? What's the product? What's the price? What's the placement? Where do you put it? And how do you promote it, right? And so you need objectives for all these things with a budget, just like Crystal was talking about. And the market, this is called the marketing mix: the product, the price, the promotion, and the placement. And it's all focused on the consumer. What's the price what's the product they want? What's the price they'll pay? How do you get it to them? And how do you promote it to them? And as Crystal was saying, you have to make sure that you're getting a return on investment with all the money that you're putting out there. Somebody said no questions. Okay. And just as Crystal showed you, you need timing with a calendar. Like, what are you going to do when? And also the money part, right? The investment part. Okay, so let's talk about the product or the service. What are its features and the price, right? What are the features? How does it work? What functions does it have for somebody? What's the formula for it, right? If it's something that you're creating, right? And what's its value to the consumer? And what's included in it? How do you package it? And what services? Maybe there's services around it. Maybe it's a product, but it also has services. Is this another question or? Okay, great. So Joseph just put the survey in the chat. So if you would go ahead and click on the link and share your thoughts about this evening's session. And maybe there's different sizes, right? Clothing or whatever. It's got lots of different sizes. And then you got to think about pricing. And I think I have to hide my floating meeting control. So you want to have either value pricing, parity pricing, or premium pricing. Value is you're cheaper than the competition. Parity is you're about the same price. And premium is that you've got a higher price. You have to choose which one's best for you, for your company, right? For the profit you're going to make and what you're trying to do with the product. So placement is your distribution channel. It's all the channels where your consumers can purchase your product or your service. So here's some examples. Your website, you might have a store, maybe you have a restaurant, but maybe it's a virtual restaurant. You're delivery only, right? Maybe you got a food truck. Maybe you do things that you pop up at certain events, special events like concerts, fairs, whatever. Farmers markets. You might have third-party marketplace. You might have some other places that market your products, like Grubhub and DoorDash, or Amazon, for food, right? And then Amazon, Etsy, etc. for products and in some senses services, and apps, right? So there's lots of different ways that people can purchase your product or your service. Boutiques, supermarkets. Okay. And then promotion, that's all the tactics you use to drive awareness of your product and revenue, in other words, sales and revenue for your company. So there needs to be a call to action. Could be, it could be the fast one, like act now to save, right? This promotion is only good until midnight or whatever it might be. Promotional tactics, buy one, get one free, pay less usually is very, very famous for that, right? 25% discount for friends and family or for early bird specials, whatever. There's lots of promotional vehicles like coupons, right? There's hard copy like gift cards. Oh, I just happen to have one right here. You can see that. Electronic like Groupon. Boy, they're under hard times right now, it looks like. You might do direct mail. I just got a piece of junk mail today with some kind of marketing message. Door hangers. People might actually go to door and put stuff on your house or your car, whatever. Events is a way to promote your business. Newspapers and other media. It can be print. It can be social media. Search engine optimization to make sure people come to your website. You might do a blog. See if we got anything else here. Any kind of public relations. So that's free publicity that you get. Third-party marketplace. So you might put something on Amazon or Etsy or somewhere to sell a product, for example. And then, of course, there's marketing communication, right? all the touch points that build brand equity with your consumer. And these are very similar: websites, social media. If you have a store, it's inside, like signage, point of purchase, on the fixtures, the racks, right? Name tags on the staff, uniforms on the staff. The shopping bags might have information about your business, right? Takeout menus from restaurants, because a lot of times in offices you'll see a bulletin board full, or a stack somewhere, or a folder with all the menus. Sidewalk signage, realtors are big with having signs out in front of the houses they sell. Window decals. All these are different marketing communications, right? Gift cards, loyalty cards. And Crystal mentioned marketing collateral. That's different from collateral that you need to put up to get a loan, like your house or your car or something. In this case, it's the things that you send your message out on, like brochures, business cards, etc. And then your merchandise, you've got stuff that's got your logo on it, right? T-shirts, bags, baseball hats, things like that. And then the packaging, right? All that. So we're getting right down to the end. We have about 3.5 minutes to go. I think we're going to do it on time. So again, we covered market research and your brand's value proposition. Talked about segmenting the market, your target audience, having a buyer persona that represents that target audience, positioning your product or service in the mind of the buyer, and then the 4 Ps. So thank you all for your participation. Please do take the survey, and I want to talk to you about some action items here. You can sign up for more SBDC trainings at the calendar right here. That link will be in the slides that you get. And you can also work for free with an SBDC business advisor. There's about 15 of us. I help people mostly with business planning. There's other people who help with finance, with marketing, all kinds of things. So that's all free. And I think we are done. We're done. So any last comments, Crystal, before we end up?
No, thank you so much for having me tonight. Good luck to everyone.
I'm sorry, say again?
Good luck to everyone in their business.
Yeah, and thank you so much for your contributions. It's great to have somebody, I have some knowledge of marketing, but it's great to have somebody who works specifically in that field who can share expertise and answer questions and make comments about a lot of these topics. And thanks to Joseph for all the logistical help tonight. And again, for everybody for their participation. And oh my goodness, we're going to end 2 minutes early. I don't think that ever happened before.
All right. Thanks you, everybody. And John, I want to thank you for spending your time and expertise, and same with Crystal. Thank you guys for joining us tonight, and thank everyone in attendance. And we'll see you at next week's event, and you will receive some follow-up information in an email and the recording. I will see you next week. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.
Bye-bye.